Marriage is not a coincidence, but a karmic outcome. In the endless stream of samsara, nothing is ever random, especially when two individuals meet, touch each other's lives, and choose to walk together on a journey called marriage. People often call it destiny or fate, but under the light of the Buddha's teachings, it is the crystallization of karma, an invisible force as solid as a rock buried deep within the consciousness. Some people pass through our lives like a fleeting breeze, leaving only a faint echo before disappearing. Others may stay with us for a very long time, yet our hearts remain restless. This leads us to ask, why did I marry this person? Why not someone else? The answer lies beyond the grasp of logic, for it is the result of seeds sown countless lifetimes ago. The Buddha once taught, whatever has a cause has a result. Whatever arises does so through dependent origination. Marriage, whether bitter or sweet, is also a result. It does not always originate from love. Sometimes it is a debt to be repaid. Sometimes it is a lesson to be relearned. And sometimes it is a mirror reflecting the shadow within us that we've long tried to avoid. When two souls meet and make a vow, it is not the heart arranging it, but the calling of karma. Each person who enters our life carries a spiritual purpose. It may be to heal us, it may be to challenge us, or it may be to awaken us from delusion. Understanding this, we stop blaming those who come and go. We learn to bow to the mysterious operation of cause and effect. For in the profound view of Buddhism, marriage is not the beginning of a romantic tale, but the next chapter in an unfinished spiritual lesson. Marriage is a lesson, not a paradise. People enter marriage with many beautiful expectations, that it will be a peaceful harbor, a sanctuary of everlasting love, a crystallization of their purest dreams. But life often teaches us a different lesson, that marriage is not the paradise we imagine, but a classroom of the soul where tests of love, patience, and wisdom arrive without end. Many marry believing their partner will make them happy. But when happiness doesn't come as expected, when disagreements, wounds, silence, or betrayal appear, they feel as if they've made a grave mistake. They ask, why did I marry this person? But from the Buddhist perspective, the better question is, what do I need to learn from this person? The Buddha once taught that all things that come to us are the results of past causes, seeds we once sowed, karmic debts yet to be cleared. Marriage is no exception. A spouse does not arrive to complete us like in fairy tales, but to touch the unfinished parts within us, to stir unhealed wounds, and to open the door of inner transformation. Sometimes the one we love most is also the one who hurts us most. But that pain is not meaningless. It is a bell of awakening, calling us to look deeply within ourselves. Perhaps it reveals a lack of self-worth, a fear of abandonment, or a craving for external validation. Our spouse does not cause these things. They merely reflect them. Thus, marriage is not the destination of love, but the journey of learning how to love rightly. Not to love in order to possess, but to love in order to understand. Not to love for comfort, but to love for growth. And when we truly learn this lesson, whether we stay or part, such a marriage remains a profound blessing on the path of life. Attraction is not always love. There are times when our hearts are irresistibly drawn to someone, even when our rational mind objects. They don't bring us joy. In fact, they may cause more pain than happiness, yet we cannot seem to let go. We try to explain it away as fate or intense love, but Buddhist wisdom reveals another truth. Attraction does not always mean love. Sometimes it is the recognition of an old karmic thread. Our soul, though unconscious, remembers past encounters. Perhaps in a previous life this person hurt us or left an emotional debt unpaid. And now karma wears the mask of magnetic pull, bringing us back onto the stage of life to continue an unfinished script. There was a woman who felt drawn to someone who made her cry more than the smile. Friends warned her. Her mind resisted, but her heart still gravitated toward him. This was not love. It was a form of subconscious karmic memory. The Buddha once said, "Beings who wander through countless lifetimes cross paths not merely to love, but to complete the lessons left undone." We call it destiny. But destiny, when not seen through the lens of mindfulness, becomes a cycle of suffering. Attraction may be the doorway to the hardest lesson of all, the lesson to love oneself, to let go, and to stop choosing pain just because it feels familiar. When you feel drawn to someone who doesn't bring you peace, don't rush to call it love. Instead, ask, what is this person helping me see within myself? And when you can answer that question with honesty and compassion, you will see the invisible cord begin to fade, for the lesson has been learned. Attraction is a signal. Love is a conscious choice. When you are mindful enough to discern between the two, you are no longer led by karma. You begin to create new karma with wisdom. Timing is as important as the person. People often say, if it's the right person, everything will fall into place. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us something deeper. It is not only about the right person, it is also about the right time. For even the most beautiful flower, if it blooms before the soil is ready, cannot take root. Love, too, if it arrives too early or too late, may become a trial rather than a blessing. There are those who clearly love each other, who seem deeply compatible, yet their marriage becomes a stream of conflicts, wounds, and misalignment. Not because they don't love enough, but because they are not yet ripe enough. One clings to the past, the other chases an unfinished dream. They meet like two murky rivers that, instead of flowing together, stir up sediment and confusion. The Buddha once taught, nothing ever happens too early or too late, only without the right awareness. When one person is learning how to love while the other is learning how to let go, they cannot build a solid home together. They are not wrong for each other, only karmically guided to meet before they were truly ready. Timing in karma is an unseen but powerful force. It not only determines who comes into our life, but also the maturity of the relationship. When one is filled with expectations and the other can only offer half a heart, love will not blossom. It will become a field of unmet longing and quiet sorrow. Realizing this, we begin to understand the lesson of spiritual ripening. We stop chasing fleeting romances. We stop forcing unions that are not yet due. For in the Buddhist view, true love does not emerge from possession, but from the sacred meeting of two souls who have both learned to live in mindfulness and compassion. When the timing is not yet right, turn inward, tend to your own soil, and when you are rooted in clarity, the right person will come, or the same person will return, but in a new form, mature, peaceful, and real. Your partner is a mirror of your inner being. In the realm of appearance and speech, your partner may seem ordinary, kind, difficult, or somewhere in between. But in the realm of the inner world, where karma and consciousness operate, they are not merely a companion. They are a mirror. And sometimes that mirror does not reflect beauty or ease. It reveals the very things we have long refused to face: wounds, insecurities, fears, and a desperate longing to be acknowledged. A woman once lamented, "He always criticizes me, says I'm not good enough." But when asked, before he said that, had you already felt not good enough? She fell silent, because the truth is, he didn't create that feeling. He merely reflected an old belief she had been carrying for years. The Buddha said, "The outer world is a shadow of the inner world. Others are simply mirrors showing us who we truly are." In marriage, people don't just live together, they live deeply together, touching each other's subconscious realms. That's why your spouse becomes one of the most pivotal figures in your spiritual evolution. They do not come to make you feel comfortable. They come to awaken you, sometimes through love, sometimes through conflict, sometimes by lifting you up, and sometimes by pushing you to your limits. And in those very moments of friction and reflection, you will see your shadows more clearly than ever before. If you are not mindful, you will blame them for your pain. But if you know how to observe with awareness, you will thank them for holding the mirror that shows your inner truth. When you learn to look into that mirror without judgment and instead adjust your own posture, that is when real love begins. Your partner is not perfect, but they are precise. They appear not to please you, but to reveal you. And only when you face that truth with compassion and wisdom does marriage become a sacred ground, not just for sharing life, but for awakening through every moment shared. Many marriages are about repaying debts or fulfilling gratitude. Not all marriages are woven from love. Some do not begin with the thrill of the heart, but with the quiet pull of old karma, a vow left unfulfilled, a debt yet unpaid, or a grace that still lingers in the fabric of the soul. And so, two people meet, not to soar together in dreams, but to close a circle that has remained incomplete. There are couples who live together for decades, not out of deep affection, but because something invisible keeps them bound. It is not attachment, nor is it mere habit. It is an unseen gravitational force. Perhaps one once saved the other's life, protected them, or made a great sacrifice in a previous lifetime. The soul remembers, even if the conscious mind forgets. And because it remembers, it returns, to repay, to care, or simply to stay. The Buddha taught, gratitude is among the most powerful karmic forces. When left unsettled, the mind cannot find peace. So, a marriage that seems like resignation from the outside may, deep within, be the expression of a karmic balance, less a chain, more a release. When you realize that the person beside you may not be there to love romantically, but to be repaid spiritually, your heart softens. You stop lamenting your fate and start living with quiet reverence. For you have been given the chance to fulfill something sacred. And when that debt is honored with kindness and sincerity, your soul becomes lighter, your steps more peaceful on the path of rebirth and awakening. Not everyone you love is someone you owe, but everyone you owe, you will eventually meet again. If not to love, then to repay. If not to repay, then to let go. And when you live in gratitude instead of resentment, you are no longer a victim of karma. You become the one who unties its knots with love. Some marriages serve a spiritual purpose. Not all marriages are born of personal joy or emotional harmony. Some soul connections arrive not to fulfill the heart, but to awaken the spirit. These are rare unions where two individuals do not seek each other to be completed, but to serve a purpose greater than themselves, a sacred, quiet journey of spiritual unfolding. In the light of Buddhist insight, these marriages are not pulled together by karma, but guided by the Dharma. This person is not the one who simply makes me happy, but the one who walks beside me on the path of awakening. They meditate together, study together, share values, and even in silence, they understand each other. Their love does not burn with passion, but glows like a meditative flame, steady, deep, and nourishing. People often admire intense romances, passionate endings, but in the realm of the Buddha, it is often the still, unadorned connections that carry the most sacred weight. These two do not come together because of lack, but because of wholeness. Not to escape loneliness, but to radiate wisdom and compassion into the world. The Buddha once taught, when two people walk the path of Dharma together, their love is blessed by the devas. These marriages are not shelters, they are sources. Together they serve, they transform, and they nourish the Bodhi mind, not with declarations of love, but with presence, sincerity, and steadfast intention. This kind of love is rare in the world, but when touched, it feels like light. It needs no display, no clinging, no fear of separation, because it does not reside in the form of two people, but in the seeing, the knowing, and the being that transcends the self. A spiritual marriage is not where love ends at us. It is where love begins to serve beyond, to move outward into compassion. And with every step they take together, they are not only walking toward each other, they are walking toward enlightenment. The karmic cycle repeats when lessons go unlearned. In the wheel of samsara, what is most frightening is not suffering, but the repetition of suffering. You may change partners, environments, or even the place you live, but if your inner self remains unchanged, the same cycles will persist. A new person may have a different face and different words, but the wounds they trigger will feel all too familiar, because karma does not release us until the lesson has been understood. A woman once asked, "Why do I keep attracting emotionally distant people? They make me feel unloved." When asked, "Have you ever truly loved yourself?" she fell silent. The Buddha taught, the mind is the root of all phenomena. If there is an unhealed wound within, life will present mirrors, not to torment you, but to remind you to look inward. Karma is like a patient yet stern teacher. If you fail the first lesson, it will return the same test again and again until you stop, face it, and awaken. A so-called failed marriage is not a tragedy. It is a stumble on the deeper journey of spiritual growth. Repetition is the symptom of ignorance. But once the light of mindfulness is lit, the pattern becomes clear, like sunrise after a long night. You no longer ask, "Why am I suffering?" Instead, you ask, "What within me needs to be seen?" That single question opens the door to liberation. If you want to change your partner, first change your energy. If you want to meet someone who truly loves you, first learn to truly love yourself. When a lesson is learned with humility and sincerity, the karmic cycle breaks, not because karma has vanished, but because the soul has evolved. Buddhism does not promise a life free of hardship, but it shows us the way out of the loop, through wisdom, compassion, and a deep inquiry into the roots of our experience. Letting go is a sign of awakening, not failure. In a world that glorifies permanence, people often mistake departure as failure and holding on at all costs as loyalty. But through the lens of awakened awareness, not everything that endures is right. Some things, when they have reached their completion, become chains if clung to. What was once love may quietly become attachment in a noble disguise. A woman once whispered through tears, "I stayed even after my heart had died. I thought that was noble." But a Zen master gently replied, "That was clinging dressed as devotion." In the Dharma, nothing is worth holding if it causes suffering to both souls. Marriage, however sacred, is still a conditioned form, a rising and falling phenomenon. When the karma is fulfilled, the lesson learned, the debt repaid, leaving is not betrayal, it is completion. Not everyone who leaves does so out of lovelessness. Some leave because they've come to understand that love is no longer being offered in a wholesome way. The Buddha taught, letting go is not giving up. It is releasing what no longer aligns with awakening. To know when to walk away is a noble art. It requires not only courage, but a soul that has deeply understood the nature of impermanence. When we part with gratitude instead of bitterness, with clarity instead of craving, separation is no longer heartbreak. It becomes a return to the self. Letting go does not mean losing what is truly yours. On the contrary, it gives freedom to both, so that each may continue their journey lighter in soul, clearer in purpose. And like the lotus that rises from mud, it is in such endings that new seeds are sown, seeds of wisdom, freedom, and boundless compassion. Marriage is an opportunity for awakening, not a destination. In worldly eyes, marriage is often seen as a destination, the perfect chapter that concludes the romance of youth and begins a life of stability and fulfillment. But under the light of the Buddha's teachings, marriage is not an ending, nor a reward. It is a doorway, one that opens to the deepest lessons of love, impermanence, and ego. The love that begins a relationship is usually soft, sweet, and easy. But it is in marriage that the soul is truly tested. When two people live under one roof, there is no more distance to hide behind, no more pauses to mask the truth. Every wound, expectation, and desire rises to the surface. And it is precisely there, if one is mindful, that marriage becomes a sacred temple, a place to study, to transform, and to awaken. The Buddha taught, nothing is fixed, not even relationships. People change, emotions shift, expectations evolve. Only mindfulness endures. And so, if we enter marriage clinging to permanence, we suffer. But if we walk into it with the eyes of awareness and the heart of presence, we grow. A life partner is not a final destination. They are a mirror, a fellow traveler, a doorway into deeper self-knowing. Sometimes they stay for a lifetime, sometimes only for a chapter. But every moment shared is a chance to learn the most essential truth, to love without owning, to be present without controlling. Marriage is not sacred because of its label, but because of the awakening it can offer. And if we walk its path with full awareness, whether we stay together or part ways, our partner remains a precious teacher in the journey home to ourselves. For in the Dharma, it is not attachment that is holy, but inner freedom even within the bounds of commitment. That is the true sign of awakening. True love is awareness, not attachment. In this world, people often confuse love with dependency. They say, "I love you because you make me feel worthy." But hidden within that statement is a need to be filled, a clinging to another's presence in order to mask the emptiness within. That kind of love is not true. It is the echo of an unhealed self. The Buddha taught, craving is the root of suffering. Not because love is wrong, but because the way we love is often tangled in attachment. We don't always love the person, we love the feeling they give us. And when they change, as all things must, we feel pain, betrayal, and despair. But what we grieve is not truly their absence. It is the collapse of the self we built upon them. True love in the light of the Dharma does not say, "Make me happy." It says, "I am here not to possess you, but to grow alongside you." It is a love that breathes, that knows when to step back, that accepts the other even in their imperfection, and that can let go in peace when the path no longer serves growth. A Zen master once said, "Attachment says, 'I need you so I can be loved.' Awareness says, 'I love you enough not to need you for my joy.' Love is not a state to be enjoyed. It is a verb to be practiced. And the first thing it must nourish is your own awareness. Awakened love does not reject joy, nor does it flee from pain. It stays present for both, like the earth holds the sun and the rain. And because of this presence, it does not collapse when the other changes. It opens the heart to embrace more truth, more kindness, more clarity. Only when you can love without needing to hold, only when you can smile even if they walk away, then you have stepped into the depth of true love, where clinging ends and inner freedom begins, illuminated by compassion. When you marry their wounds, not just their words. When two people marry, They do not enter each other's lives only with smiles and vows. They also step into a home filled with unhealed memories, where wounded inner children reside, old scars remain unnamed, and silent griefs have lingered for years. A spouse does not come bearing only love, they bring their pain as well. And whether knowingly or not, you marry all of it. Someone once said, "I love her, but she keeps pushing me away. I feel unwanted." But the truth is, she isn't pushing him away because she doesn't care, but because she is afraid. Her heart carries the pain of past abandonment, of rejection, and now love scares her. She fears repeating what once broke her. The Buddha taught, a mind that is not healed repeats suffering as a habit. The partner is not trying to hurt you, they are struggling with the darkness that was never brought to light. When you marry someone, you do not just live with their present self. You live with their past, with the parts they hide, with the memories they cannot speak. And the same is true in reverse. If neither of you are aware of this, the home of marriage becomes a battleground, where each person reacts from their wounds without knowing they're wounding the other. The Dharma does not teach us to fix people. It teaches us to understand them. Understanding is the root of compassion. When you can see the wounded child inside your partner, you stop blaming and begin holding, not with hands, but with your heart's tenderness. And when both are willing to look into each other's pain, not to accuse, but to heal, that is the highest form of love. Because marriage is not where two perfect people meet. It is where two imperfect souls choose to stay, to heal together, and to grow in mindfulness and compassion. Marriage is a mirror for the soul. You marry yourself in another form. In everyday life, people often ask, who should I marry? But in the Dharma, the deeper question is, who am I if I attract this kind of person into my life? Because the person you marry at the deepest level is not a stranger. They are a reflection of you, your unhealed wounds, your lingering desires, and the parts of your consciousness still awaiting transformation. You think you chose them, but in truth, karma chose. You think the encounter was new, a coincidence, but in truth, it was a continuation of something that began long before, perhaps in another life or in a forgotten corner of your own unconscious. And so, marriage is not the opening to a brand new story. It is a sacred chance to complete what was left undone. The Buddha said, "The people you meet are not accidents, they are mirrors of your inner world." If you carry anxiety, you will draw someone who intensifies that anxiety, not to punish you, but to help you face it. If you are grounded in love and stability, you will draw someone who reflects that same energy. What you meet in another is what still lives inside you. Marriage, then, is a mirror, clear and uncompromising. It does not flatter or distort. It simply reflects your present level of awareness. When you are angry, you'll see aggression in their words. When you are insecure, you'll see betrayal in their eyes, even if they haven't betrayed you. And yet, when you turn inward, begin your own practice, tend to your healing, listen to your inner voice, and let go of unrealistic expectations, the mirror begins to change. Your partner, even if unchanged outwardly, will reflect back a different version of you, calmer, more generous, less reactive. Who you marry is who you are, embodied in another. And when you deeply realize this, marriage is no longer a pursuit of happiness outside of you. It becomes a profound journey inward, not to hold on to someone else, but to embrace your whole self, fully, honestly, and with awakened presence.